Snippets. Hi everyone. So welcome to class 25. Good to see you guys. Yeah, welcome. Okay, so we have a lot to do today. I'm excited about it. All right. So I think I've shared my entire screen, and I know you can see my entire screen. All right. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna look at a project that I thought of a project, and I wanted to show you guys how Python can be very useful. So this project is divided into using Flask API. Okay, we want to create APIs using Flask. API is just like an endpoint URL that when a user click on the browser or enter on the browser, it's either show informations or it's either it shows an information or it retrieves it retrieve an information, or you want to insert an information. Okay, so that's what we are doing. So I just want bring us to that point. Okay, and not just that, the next thing I want to do is that how do we not test these APIs? How do we test them? All right, so that we can be able to you know see that it is working. Okay, so those are another thing we're going to do. Then we are also going to populate the database, because we're going to I want us to also create a database where we are that database will reflect the information that we are maybe we want to get from the endpoint. And also, how do we now uh, post um, um, the record via our API, all right, that we're creating using Flask, then see it reflect on the database. So it's just a very simple stuff. And then I also want us to see how we can um, um, render an HTML file, using Flask, so that you can also understand that you can use Flask to build things that are related to web. Although in Python, people are more conversant using Django, but Flask also can do a lot. It's just very lightweight system, like just the one we are working with right now. Okay. Yeah. So welcome, Francis, Gloria. Gloria said, Coach, please take it easy on us today. Okay. And let me also state that the assessment for this week it's available after the end of the class. I'm going to send. It's just a very minor project work that you guys can just do in less than 30 minutes, because it's everything that we've thought about. All right. Probably excluding maybe Flask that we're looking at today. But if you want to make it Flask integrated, that's cool. So we're going to look at three things. We're going to look at, I have a README file here that talks about what we're going to do, but I've built it into something different. I'll show you guys how it looks like. Okay, I don't want to use the README file anymore. So the first thing we are looking at is how we are creating our database. Okay, so we create the database using SQLite. Very simple. Then we'll create a database. The name of the database is going to be userdb. Okay, and then we pass our connection into a connect or con variable, and then we create a cursor. A cursor allows us to have the ability to be able to execute commands in our database. So passing the cursor, so these are an object anyway. So once we save it into our con becomes an object, and then we can be able to get the cursor method and pass it into a cursor variable. So, and then from the cursor variable, we can be able to execute what we want to do. We want to create a database. This is now us integrating SQL into Python. So you've already done that when you were building your bank app. All right. So you know this idea, you know how this flows. Okay. So create table if not exist users. Okay. Then this will be what we want to do. We're going to pass in an integer, but the integer is the ID rather is an integer, and it's auto increment, meaning that it increased based on the number of users that we have. So it's not something that we're going to be imputing. All right, once you put a user, it goes 1, 2, 3 by itself. So, but the key stuff that we're going to be passing is the first name, and we say that the first name must not be empty, meaning that that database must not have an empty row call on the first name. Same thing with the last name, but the data type this time is test. Test, these are just pretty much basic SQL. Then we want to pass in an email and it's test, but then the email, it should not be not nominee, not empty, but then we also pass in a keyword called unique, meaning that the email address should be unique. So if anybody, there should not be duplicate of email address in that database. So if anybody is trying to register and it's having the same email address that we already have in the database, it's going to flag that person that this email address already exists. Remember, we're trying to register for some stuff and they tell you your email address is already existing. So that's the idea. This is just the idea. And they will pass in the phone number as test. So this is the content, the tables, the table we want to create, and this is the columns on that table. So when we do that, we can then commit the query and then close our database. And then we can say Python has created successfully, the database has been created rather. So because this is inside the function, just the simple stuff, we just put it inside create database. So where I was testing it, I already done it, but I want to run it again, okay? So I'm going to just come down here. There's no need coming down, just click on play because we said if name underscore name is equals to main. So somebody said something I struggle to figure out. Looking simple right now. It's very simple, Isaac. If you just calm down and just be looking at it, it's very, very simple, step by step. So we run it. Now, once we run it, okay, so I wait for my terminal to load. Great. So database created. So I already have it here before, but I think right now that I created it again, it's just override what we had before. So this is my database. Okay. Remember yesterday when we had was it yesterday or when I was showing you guys what I did on my bank app and how I connected to a database. So I already have an extension here that I can use to connect to in my VS Code. I can use to connect to database quickly and just see what is there. So I'm going to click on it and I'll go to service. Okay, I think let me just click service. So service here, I'm going to create a connection so that we can see our database. And I think I don't need my terminal off again. I don't need my terminal anymore. So what kind of connections do I want to create? It's an SQLite table or database. So we'll pass in the paths. So I'll go here, copy the paths. Just copy paths, paste it, Ctrl V, and then create connection. So it's going to bring me to the place where I have to create my connection. So it's creating the connection already. So you can see I already have my connection right now. All right. So I have two tables. I have two tables, and the first table is telling me the total number of users that I have, which currently is saying 11. I don't know, it should not be saying 11 right now, but let me do my users. Okay, great. So my users, it's empty. They should be empty. Let me truncate this table. To truncate that table, should not be showing. It was showing my testing. So let me go back to it again. Great. Name sequence, there's none because we don't have any user. And then the next one is you can see we have the database that we created, the ID, first name, last name, email address, and phone number. So it's all there. So our database is set and running. Okay. So the next thing we want to do is that we'll go over to our file extension. Now I also want to populate a data. So there's a library called Faker in Python. Faker allows you to generate random informations. Okay, so we import Faker. So from Faker import Faker. That's how it's being imported. Imagine from Faker import Faker. I use Faker a lot, especially when I want to populate data sets. So from Faker we import Faker, and then we create a function to populate this database. So we're passing the Faker class of objects into a fake variable, and then we create a database back because we want to connect to that database, isn't it? Now the next thing we're going to do is that we're going to run a for loop to insert. We're just inserting 10 random value because I really don't want to use much about it. I just want to show you how you can just populate a database. Okay, so once we have that, then the first name dot the first name is going to be faker.firstname. Now, this is the method from fake that we are using to create a first name. Okay, there's a method in faker that you can use to create a first name. So this is what you need to call. We also have the last name, and then we have email, and then we have phone number. So you can look at it. You can look at faker object or the module faker at your own convenience, but it's very, very amazing and nice. So once we have all of these details, we need to pass it to the database. So we create the cursor.execute. Now we want to insert into the table we've created. So insert into users table. What are the values that we want to insert? First name, last name, email, phone number, and then we pass in a placeholder, the values, and then this question mark you're saying is a placeholder, meaning that we want to pass in a value, all right, in that place. So that's why we're putting as a tuple, is a placeholder. So what are the values we want to pass? We want to pass in first name, last name, email, and phone number. That's all. So once we run this, because it's a loop, now remember it's a loop. We are doing it for 10 times. It's going to run for 10 times. So that's why this underscore here is like for the number of times in a loop, all right? For number in loop. But we are not using it. The number, I don't need it. That's why I just made it underscore. Sometimes if you want to run a for loop and you don't need that, maybe part one of the values, like in a dictionary now, let's say you want to run through a dictionary, all right? You know, you have the key and the value. Maybe you want to use the dot items method. So and you might not need the key, but you just need the value for something. I don't know, depending on the application or the usage of what you want to do. So you can use an underscore to say, okay, I'm going to be skipping what is coming from there because I don't need it. All right. So it's going to run 10 times, and then when we are done, we commit and then we close the database and we populated it. So the same way we're going to do populate database, call the function. So I'm going to click play again because there's an if made here. So call that, and you can see it's database populated with 10 faker. So we'll go back to our database. I think I still have the connection. Let's go back here. Let's refresh the database. So let me drop this. Okay, so let's refresh the database. And let me call. Great. So you can see right now that we have 10 rows of of data that has been populated using the Fika module. So Nancy, Daya, this is Nancy's stuff, this is Nancy's phone number, this is Richard, this is Tina, this is Angela, and these are all their phone numbers. Okay, so this is why it's good to make phone numbers test, because you can see that Nancy's phone number is +1. If you make it integer, it cannot be able to track that. So that will be an error. And plus is an information when it comes to phone numbers. Okay, so great. So we have all of this information, right? So that means in our project, we have been able to achieve two things. The first thing we've achieved is how to create a database. The next thing we've achieved is how to populate the database, isn't it? That's fantastic. Now, the next thing we want to do is how to now create an endpoint. Okay, so the endpoint is that we want to be able to now want to create a Flask API, right? That allows user to be able to get information via a browser, all right, or via an endpoint. You can be able to get the information. What information they want user to get? Let's say a user wants to access Nancy, or they want to access Richard, or they want to access Tina. Okay, the unique ID they might want to use to access them is the integer. So once you call, use the ID 1, meaning we want to access the person at the first row. ID 10 should give us, you understand, Deborah and all of that. So we want to create an endpoint that we can use to get it online or via a browser. Okay, and then the next thing we want to do is that we want to create an endpoint. What if we want to add to the database and we don't need to come and run a script? Can't we create another endpoint where we can post data into the database? Okay, so there are two methods we want to do. One is to get is to retrieve, and then post is to insert. But I want us to do that using an endpoint. Okay, there are other ways we can do this, but let's do it using. So take it like Facebook, for example. When you log into your information, you are getting your page from their database, and when you're creating, when you're registering as a user, you're posting your information into their database. All of this is done on the website, but what is the endpoint running all of that? So we're just testing that kind of logic and concept. But I'm going to show us two ways. First of all, I'm going to show us how to use the browser to testing to get, because One thing you should understand is that your browser always does the get method, okay, to retrieve information. It does that a lot. But then there are difficulties when it comes to posting, except you build that platform for you to post. Okay. So that's why we're going to use Postman. Postman, we use Postman for two ways to be able to get information and also to see how we can use it to post information. But also, we're going to create um, an HTML platform for us to render when the user goes to maybe our when we run our endpoints, then what the user should see first. We're going to build an HTML dot index. Although Flask has its default one that it does if you don't put any HTML stuff, or I decided to put an HTML, but I did two. One is just a rough template, and the other one is a well structured index, so that that carries the project for you guys to understand. I think at the end of this, I might just go and host this thing on GitHub and share it with you guys. But let's go ahead. So this is the HTML, first HTML we're going to look at that I built that will get on our index. But before we go to this place, this is just HTML script, all right? And after that, I'm going to come back here and rerun this other one. But let's just go to our app file. So this is where we're doing building our endpoint, and then this is where we're using our Flask. So to build Flask, we say from Flask, we're going to import the Flask class. And then we want, because we want to render an HTML index, we're going to call the render templates and then the request to be able to get that. Um, then the next thing we want to do is to do justify. Justify simply means that we want to bring our result as like a dictionary. Okay, remember dictionary, all right? Over the internet they call it JSON, but it's more like a dictionary, Python dictionary. So the next line we do is and then we are importing SQL because we want to interact with our database. So the next thing we do is that we'll create an app. Okay, this is the syntax to building Flask file. So we'll create an app. All right. Now in that app, the next thing we want to do is that we're going to pass in Flask, and then we have underscore name. So this is remember when we're building instance, when we're working on a class, we say that there are variables you pass that the for you to create an object. Okay. So app now is the object of our project that we're working on. Is the object called app that we're working on. Now this is how we now build routes or routes. This is how we build routes. So at symbol, the app that we've created dot route. So what does this route say is that in our browser, if anybody goes, so anyway you see something like slash and no quote slash, it means index. Okay. So it means anyway, when the person goes to the index place, this is the function that we want to render. This is the function we want to call. So for every route, there is a function beneath it. Okay. I've used this to build chatbots, some structured like chatbots. You understand? This we're using Flask to just build basic chatbots for somebody. Like if you call this place to be able to fetch data from a database and render it to users and all of that. So this is very, very good if you understand this concept. So if we call the index stuff, we want to render, we want to return, and what do we want to return? We want to render an HTML file. All right, we just want to render an HTML file. We can decide to, maybe I might decide to show you guys the theory phase. What if I don't want to render an HTML file? How does it look like? If I want to render an HTML file, how does it look like? Okay. But let's say we are rendering an HTML file. Let's leave it that way. Then the next route we want to create is a route that helps to get information. So when the user says, so we'll do app.route, then you see we pass in a URL. So the URL, we're not customizing our URL. So when on the browser, if we have something like user, okay, that's after our URL slash user, and there is an information. Now, this information, this thing I'm quoting now is that an ID. So there's an integer and it's a user ID. Okay. If that user ID is passed, we want to apply the method get. So get is to retrieve. So what do we want to do now? We now create the function that we help us get what we want, the information that we want. So the dev get user. So we need the user ID, which is what we need to pass in when we're calling this URL on our browser. You're going to see all of these things. I'm just explaining now. So we connect to the database and then we execute select all from user, normal SQL, select all from user, meaning select the information, the first name, last name, phone number, email from user, where the ID is equals to whatever ID we pass on our while testing the API or that route. And then we fetch it, fetch clone it as a user, and then we close it. So now when we close it, we now have all the information in the user, but we need to run a loop for we to display this on the screen. So we're going to say if user, meaning if we've gotten an information. So user data is equal to, we create a dictionary. So you know that this user result we are getting is more like it's a tuple, okay, and that tuple has different number of information and it's going to contain the number of rows, which is the first one is the ID, the second one is going to be the first name, last name, just sequence, and it goes like that. All right, so that's what we're going to get. Now when we get that, the next thing we want to do is that, because if you're not rendering an HTML file when using Flask, it's either you are rendering a JSON file, okay, because that's what you want the users to get. So we're going to return a JSON file, and then we'll pass in the dictionary. Okay, we'll pass in the dictionary into it. Now, JSON file is just that we are saying that convert a dictionary into something that Flask understand as a JSON, simple stuff. And then we are passing the code. We're passing the code 200. 200 in when you are using your browser or something, it means successful. Okay, it's just some code you can search about them, all right, on HTML, and then we return, or else if we go into through an error on this part, we just say there was no record, the user was not found. So what if somebody enters a record, a user ID that was not found? We need to pass in that we did not get it on the database. Now that's what this route is doing. Then lastly, the last route we're going to be doing is post. Now this time we want to put value into the database. So when we say app dot, the name of our app or our URL slash slash user. Okay, so I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. Can you hear me now? You're not the only one. Even me, I was surprised. I don't know what happened. So where were we? Okay, I'm sharing my entire screen. So I'll just share my entire screen at the stage, and then we use this presentation mode. Great. So we are back. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, it was from my hand. I don't know what happened. My network just disappeared. So So what we're saying is that it's possible that a user might not pass in phone number, all right, while imputing values, all right. So if so, what we're doing is that if not data or not all, okay, in keys in the data for keys, all right, in first name, last name, and email. So if there is no information for any of this, that's what we are doing with this line. That's what the line is saying. If there's no information in any of this, all right, tell the person that you are missing a required field. So meaning what we're saying is that first name, last name, or email is required when you're passing data or when you're posting data. And then we create our information. Okay, so once we create an information, all right, or we create a database, connect our database, and then execute. So we insert into user first name, last name, a phone number. What are we going to insert? So this is what we are collecting. That's what we're having requested. So we're going to collect uh, our information. So we'll pass in data dot first name because this will go, is going to be a dictionary. All right, JSON is the dictionary. So whatever you have in the first name as the key, pass it to the database, last name, email address, and then we'll get the phone number. Now, the reason why I'm using get phone number here is that it is possible that you did not pass in a phone number. I remember the get function when I was teaching you guys dictionary. I taught you that with the get, if you use get in a dictionary, what it does is that if it does not find the keyword, it's not going to raise an error. Remember, if it does not find the key name, it's not going to raise an error. But if you pass it directly like this, if the user does not provide the information, it's going to create an error and your code is going to crash. So that's why we're using get here because we are saying that phone number is optional. All right, when you're posting an information. And I'm going to show you guys all of this. We're going to test it. All right, we're going to see it. Okay, so we commit and then user ID is equals to cursor dot last word. Now, what this is doing is that our user ID is going to be the last part where we have our cursor, meaning this is where we do the auto incrementation. So when all of this is corrected, we will tell the person that all right, you successfully added the user information, and this is the user ID that was created. But then, what if the person or whoever is posting or does not this is where we not test the email address. So if there's an SQL, now you see where we are using try and accept. I'm using try and accept. I always like saying we when I'm teaching. I don't know why. Something like you do, I'll say we. Oh God. So I'm using try and accept, yeah. So if you try and if this does not work, meaning there's going to be an error. What's the error? Remember, we said that email needs to be unique. So if a user passing an email that is already what we have on the database is similar to what we have on the database, there's going to be an error. So that's what we are trapping here with this SQL dot um, integrity error. And then what are we doing is that we're telling you that the email already existed, and then that's all. So that is all we need to do in our app. And before you know, voila, our app is running. Great. So we need to just test it with running the app. So if name underscore is equals to main, so app dot run. I'm using debug equals to true because I want to see when there's an error. But in production, normally debug is equals to false. Okay. When you're so you can even host all of these things. We can host these things on. I can host this on Heroku and give you guys to test. All right, well, that's another topic. So let's run this our app. Let's run it. So for me to run this, I'm going to do Python. Okay, before I do that, let me show you guys another thing. So this is the requirement that you need for this. In case I push it to GitHub or something, you want to look at it. Okay, or you need the packages to install for it to run on your system. Okay, so we're going to do Python, then we just do app.py. That's what we want to do, and I'm going to run that. Great. So you can see that serving Flask app and the debug mode is on. This is a deployment server. Do not use it in production. Okay, I told you guys. And then this is the URL now that is running. This is my local host. What you see here, 172.0 is my local host, but this is the port. It's running on port 500. All right, and the bug is active. This is the pin of debugging, but great. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go to which browser will I use now? Let me go to this browser. Let me click on my Chrome. Let me go to a guest. Let's go to a guest mode. Okay. Then I'm going to paste this here and run. Okay. Can you guys see my screen? Give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. I'm trying to. I've lost my second screen on my app, so I can't see your comment anymore. So almost there, almost there. So now give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. I think I just got my second screen back up. Okay, can see my screen. Fine, fantastic. Live chat. Let me be seeing you. Can you see my screen? Yeah. Okay. Flora said yes. So you can see that we have the simple HTML file. Let me go back to the HTML file that we created. So what we just do is title. So I'll turn on my so we have title, and then we have 30 days of Python. Can I split? I can split this. Let me just split my screen. So that's okay. Great. So we have. I'll drop this here, and you can see my screen on the left. So we have title, which we've done. Title 30 days. Welcome to 30 days of Python or with Python. Then this is just small HTML. So welcome to 30 days of Python. All right. So this sorry, PIP 30 days of title is the title of the website, and then these are HTML header, and this is Flask. So this is a simple Flask file with SQL database. We have it here, and the endpoint is here. So these are you get user using this, and then you post user using this. So yeah, this is it. But I want to change this interface to something more better. Okay, I have two HTML file that I created, so I'm going to comment this one out. If I reload now, I'm going to get an error. See, if I reload, I might likely get. Okay, I've not saved it. If I save this file and reload, I'll get an error. Should I just save it and reload so that you guys will just say I'll get an error? So you see, I'm having a blank stuff. It means that it's not rendering anything. Okay, it's not rendering anything. But let me just Ctrl V this. So and then let's uncomment this part. This one. I want this HTML file. So I'm going to take this one off and then Control S. So this is the main um, page I want us to show. So let me refresh this. Great. So I have a more better in page right now. So let me zoom it. So this is a more better page. So what I just did was that I add the documentation of the project on it so that we can use it to test some other things. So I left it there. I want it here so that I can be coming back and test the Postman, all of that. So this is what we're going to do. We've created a database. We've set up this thing. We run a Flask. Now we know we use the dash slash to get the welcome page. What if we want to get the user ID? So we need to use user ID to get it. And then if we want to post, we use the user to post. So this is to post. This is to post a user. This is to get a user. And then I'm going to show you how to use Postman to be able to get the information. And then you see how my project stuff is structured like. Okay, and if there are any error, these are how you work on them. So all these things are running locally, all right, and these things are designed using just HTML. So let's get a user now. So I'm going to go here, copy this URL because the URL, paste it, and do slash user slash one. Now, when I do slash user slash one, you can see that I'm getting the first name, last name. So I can also render an HTML file here. Let me make this thing bold. I don't know if you can see it. I hope it does not spoil what I have here. It spoils it, but let me make it bold so that is what I can see. So you can see we have first name. Uh, that's user one is Stacy and thereabouts. So which what we have on our database. So this is why I make my database big. So on our database, you can see we have Nancy. That's what we have here. All right, guys, are we still together? So if I do user 10, for example, it's going to give us Deborah, which is what we have on our database. Deborah is user 10. So what if I do user 11? Control Z, user 11. It's going to tell us error, user not found, which is what we stated on our script. Okay, can go. I'm trying to find that on our script. Yeah, which is where we stated on our script that if we don't get the information, then the user does not start. Okay, so we are pretty much there. Then the next thing we need to do is that what if we want to now insert? Remember, if we say we want to insert, we'll also use the URL. We just do user and run it. But it's going to give us an error. Let me make this thing back to where it should be. So it's going to give us an error 405 error because we're trying to post information with this route and we cannot use we did not structure it that we can post it this way. So we can also do things where you render an HTML file to be able to pick all the information that you want to post and click submit. That can be your next assignment, but we're almost there. Let me leave it that way. You know, your assignment is always bigger than what we do in class. I know some people will say, Francis will say, yes, sir. Gloria will say, yes, sir. But that's the truth. I've done the basics for you. I want you to go and think and expand your knowledge so that you know how to, your hand will be strong with what I'm doing or what we have done. And the video is always here for you to come and play and watch and again get commerce. And funny enough, the reason why I don't send code to you guys is that I know when you watch the video, you type the code, you pause the video, type the code is good so that you know how to type code. All right. But if I send it to you, just copy and paste. You will not learn it. But when you're typing, you're making errors, you're making mistakes, you understand, "Oh, okay, this is what I need to type." It stays in your brain. All right. It stays in your brain. That's why I've never given any of you source code. Okay. Just be doing what you're doing, learn what you're learning. I could see from the back camp that most of you submitted. It was because I showed you guys on the class. I caught Gloria, I caught Susan, I caught where's that caught again? Flourish. Three of you I caught you. Three of you are in. Come and peace the gods. Sorry for those of us who are not in Nigeria. You are playing this video. All right. It just means come and see me later after the class. That's what it means. So we would then now use Postman. This is where we use Postman to do our stuff. Okay. So I want to show you how to use Postman to get it done. So this is Postman. It's just you can download it on let me show you. Just go. So you see we cannot get our user now, but let's just say user time. Let's go back to and you can when I go back to my our browser and so we have I probably have some logs showing us the user issues and all of that. But let me go back to our browser. Let me show you how Postman works. So you can download Postman online. It's just like an app. Okay, you can download Postman, right? And then install it on your system. So I've downloaded it, I've installed it, and when you want to install it, you tell you to sign in using your Google account. So we sign in, and yeah. So now that we have our app running, it means that the URL is still functioning. Okay. So I'm going to copy this and we're going to use the postman.get information. So we'll go back to what we have on Flask API. So this is how to use Postman. We would get the information. So let's say we want to get this information. All right, I'll copy this here. But what we need to do first of all is to set a method called get on our Postman. So I'll go to Postman. I'll click on new. What kind of stuff do I want to do? I want to use an HTTP, okay, for because that's our browser. That's what we are doing. Endpoint, HTTP endpoint. So they have others, all right. AI is here, and other collections here. But this is what we want to do. API test transfer protocol. So I'll click on it. Great. So I have stuff. So this is where you have other stuff. Do you want to post, put? So these are other methods that we can do in we can add to our app. We can add delete. We want to delete a record from. We want to delete a user record by using the user ID. Okay, that's very simple. We want to delete. So we delete the record from a database. You can do put. Put is we want to probably want to update. We want to update a user record. So we use put to be able to update a user record and all of that. So get. So what do we want to get? We want to get user one, for example. So when I pass user one, I'm going to click on send. So wait for a response. You can see that it's coming up here. Let me see if I can make my screen a little bit my postman bold for you guys to see. So you can see it here that we have okay. So you can see here that we have the user's response when we posted. It's very, very simple. So if I want to post 11 now and I send, it's going to tell me that let me send it. No user record was found, but if you post 9, it will tell us the information that we have. Okay, somebody would ask, what if you post nothing, like our index, what do we get if we send it? Does Postman have the ability to render an HTML file? Yeah, so this is what it's going to give to us. It's going to give us the file that we are using to post our HTML. Can you see that this is my source code? Okay, so it's not giving the interface, but I think it has the ability to visualize, but I don't know. I've not tested that, but that's not where we want to go to. Okay, so we have preview. Great. So you see, we can preview the website that we just built, all right, on Postman. So you can use Postman to test endpoints. This is a little bit small because of now that's simple using get. But what if we want to post now, which is the major call of our next project of this project? So I'll click on plus again because I want to create a new connection. But this time, rather than get, I'll click on post. And then when I click on post, I'm going to pass in our URL that we need to post. Okay, passing this. This is the endpoint to post. So go here, click on it. But before I click send, there's a lot of things I need to do. Okay, the first thing I need to do is I need to tell our postman what kind of content we are sending. So let me click down here. So we are sending our content type, and it's going to be an application JSON. Let me just copy. I hate making mistakes when I'm doing these things. So I'll just copy application JSON and paste it on my postman. Great. So this is what we are sending, right? Then we cannot just click send. Also, the next thing we need to do is to go to the body. And what are we now sending in the body? That's what we are doing. So we click on raw. So we post. Remember, look at it. Our headers. Where's my parameters? Parameters already told us what we're going to be doing. Okay, so then headers. I think I need to even put that on my headers too, not just my parameters. So let me go back there. So our headers can also be content. Great. Content type. And we are passing application JSON. I don't need that on my parameters. If I can even delete it if I want to, but just leave it there. So this is it. It stays on our headers, and then the next thing we're going to do is go to the body. What are we now passing? Because we say we are passing an application JSON, so we need to pass in a dictionary. So that's why I will just go to this place, copy. Let me copy this user. Let's copy Alice. Or let's say let's copy Grace. Let's go and paste Grace. I'll change it to Grace. So I'll go to my Postman. On the body, I'll paste it. So let's change this to Grace. Oh, no, not Grace, Gloria. Let's change to Gloria. Okay, and I want to use Gloria's surname. So right, let me confirm very well. Right now. Okay, great, that's great. So I'll just use Gloria. I'm trying to remember Slack channel name, but that's fine. So we use Gloria and all of that. So this is what we want to send to our database. Okay. So I'll click on send. Now I'll click on send because we want to post it now. So wait for the response. So great, it was successful. User created, user 11, as we said on our code. So let's go to our database and go and check. This is our database. And check if we need to refresh the database. So I'll just click on refresh. Not refresh, rather, yeah. That's not my refresh. I will just come to connection and click on my database again. So great. So we see user 11, Gloria name has been added to the database. Fantastic. That's what we want. So with Postman, we can be able to just test this endpoint. So what if we want to add this same, let's say we change it from Gloria and we used Flora this time. Same post, we want to post Flora, and maybe Flora, what's your son again? Okay, Olusegun, and the Flora, there's no A to it. But let's say now Flora, maybe even if we change the this thing, the phone number, but Flora is still having the same email address that we use for Gloria. If we send it, it's going to tell us that the email address already exists. So it's not posting to our database. Okay, it's not posting to our database. Remember, because we did that on the code. So I said we change this to Flora, and then we resend it again, and then it will tell us that Flora has been added to our database. So let's do that again. So Flora has been added to our database. Now I want to show you the last thing. The last thing was that if we do not pass in a phone number, for example, and we now had Francis. So let me find Francis surname. Okay, Opera. So that's okay. And then we have to make this one Francis. And then we send to our database. Great, it's going to create successful because we said, remember when we were saying that if a phone number is not gotten, you can pass in that information to the database. So once we come here and also, I don't know, great, so refresh. I don't need to be running this site again. So Francis is here. So, but the phone number is not known. But what if we go back here and I want to copy all of this information because I want to do Control Z because I need that phone number back. Great. And then I want to pass in Control V, take this one off, take this one off. Great. So what I want to do is that what if we do not pass in an email right now and we want to create another thing for, let me create for wisdom, and we want to create wisdom OEM. Okay, OEM. And maybe wisdom's number is 222, for example. And then we send it, we are going to get an error telling us that a missing requirement. So we need an email because we stated that email must be very, very what important or is needed in stuff. So we need to say that email, passing that the email is wisdom at gmail.com or something. Okay, and then send. Great. So we now have wisdom created on our database, and by the time we refresh, uh, we get it installed. So, guys, I think I wish, or I hope you already understand the concept of what we've done, and all these we've done are all stated here on our README to get response and also to to be able to post response and how to use Postman to do this and all of that. So this is a simple project that we've built. So we can always get the response here. Let's say 13, we'll get Gloria's response. 13, I should get Gloria. So we get Francis. Okay, Francis is on 13. We get Francis response, last name and all of that. Then, but we can, to post, then we used a Postman to be able to test this. Yeah. So I think we're good to go. And this was a fantastic class. And if you have any question, you can drop it on the comment section or we can talk it on the Slack channel. But then we are good to go. And I've also checked your assignment and I've given my suggestion. Everybody that's Gloria, Susan, and all of that, please make the updates. Jennifer, make the update that you need to do. And Francis also, I've shown the link. So at the end of this class, your assessment for this week is going to be sent, and we'll talk on the class on the Slack channel. Like Gloria said, this is very interesting, very very interesting. I want you guys to bookmark this video. You need it. You need it. All right. Have a wonderful time, guys, and see you on the Slack channel. At my end is cheers and bye bye.